Breaking news. Ukraine gets another lot of Ultra-A drones from UK.
It is Monday, February 9th, 2026.
Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. Join me in the latest program by Defense Report for the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today, we're going to cover
The delivery of a massive new lot of wind racers, Ultra-A drones, right to the front lines.
And this isn't just a handful of drones. We're talking about a piece of a truly staggering pledge by the UK.
100,000 drones by April 2026. That number is just huge.
It's unbelievable. But what we're looking at today isn't your typical little quadcopter. We're talking about something the engineers are calling the Jeep of the skies.
That nickname is really stuck, hasn't it? But honestly, when you look at what this thing is and what it does, it's the only name that makes sense.
It really is. I mean,
Yeah.
we are talking about a drone that can fly 2,000 kilometers. It's built like a tank. Well, an aluminum tank. And it is completely rewriting the rules of logistics and deep strike warfare in a way that has Russian command absolutely terrified.
So let's get into it. This new lot is arriving in Ukraine as we speak.
And when I say drone, people probably picture something sleek, maybe a Reaper or one of those little DJI drones. The Wind Racer's old TRA.
Whoa.
It doesn't look like that at all, does it?
Not even close. You know, if you saw one on an airstrip, your first thought wouldn't be high-tech, it would be industrial workhorse.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got this 10-meter wingspan, twin engines, fixed wing, but the most striking thing is that it's boxy. It's not made of sleek black carbon fiber.
It almost looks like something you could build in a really well-equipped garage.
And that is the absolute genius of it. It's built almost entirely from high-grade aluminum. Something like 95% of the entire airframe is just metal.
Which, it feels like a step backwards, right?
Yeah.
It's 2026. Everything is supposed to be these space-age composites and stealth coatings. Why aluminum?
That was my first thought, too. Like, are we going back to the 1940s? But then you have to think about the reality of the battlefield.
Okay.
Carbon fiber is great. It's light. It's strong. Until it takes a bit of shrapnel. Then it just shatters. And to fix it, you need a clean room, special resins, vacuum bags. You need a laboratory.
None of which you have in a muddy trench near the front line.
Precisely. But aluminum, if this Ultra-A comes back with a bullet hole in the wing, you don't need a scientist. You need a mechanic.
Right.
A technician with standard metalworking tools can rivet a patch over the hole and have it back in the air in an hour.
That's a huge philosophical shift. It's about prioritizing, keep it flying over, keep it looking perfect.
That's the Jeep philosophy in a nutshell. It's all about utility. It's ruggedness over refinement. And that means it can do things more fragile. Tech just can't.
So let's talk about what it can actually do, because the performance stats are honestly surprising for something that looks so simple.
The payload is the big headline here. It's carrying 150 kilograms right now.
150 kilos.
And the new models are already being upgraded to 200.
That's not just a camera and a spare battery. That's real cargo. You're talking about ammunition crates, blood plasma, critical supplies.
Or, a very large warhead. But the range is what completely changes the strategic map.
Okay.
The standard version was 1,000 kilometers. This new configuration that's arriving now, it hits 2,000 kilometers.
2,000. Let's visualize that for a second.
To put that in perspective for everyone, that's roughly the distance from London to Kyiv, or London to Marrakesh.
Or, to put it in terms that really matter for this war, that's from the Ukrainian border to basically any target in the European part of Russia.
The Olenaya airfield, way up north. In range, Engels Air Base, where their strategic bombers take off.
In range.
Moscow, easily within range. It puts the entire rear echelon of the Russian military at constant risk. And here's the kicker. It doesn't even need a runway.
Right, the stowable capabilities.
Yeah.
Short takeoff and landing.
Exactly. It needs just 150 meters of, anything. Dirt, grass, a damaged bit of road.
Which means you can hide these things anywhere. A small farm field, a section of an old highway. You don't need a huge, obvious airbase that the Russians can just target with missiles.
It makes the whole fleet incredibly resilient. It's never all in one place. It's dispersed across hundreds of tiny, temporary airstrips.
So I want to shift to why Ukraine needs a Jeep of the skies so badly. Because this isn't just about cool new tech. This is about solving a really deadly problem on the front lines.
This gets to the heart of a huge shift in logistics that Ukraine is basically inventing on the fly. Armies have always relied on what's called pull logistics.
Okay, break that down.
So a unit on the front runs low on mortar rounds. They call back to the depot, that's the pull. Then a crew loads up a truck, and that truck has to drive to the front.
And driving a truck near the front in Ukraine?
Yeah.
That's basically a suicide mission now.
It is probably the single most dangerous job in the entire war. These convoys are big, slow targets. They get hit by FPV drones, artillery, mines. Every single delivery run is a massive risk.
So the Ultra flips that whole idea. It enables push logistics.
Completely. Instead of a driver risking their life, an autonomous Ultra flies the supplies right over the target. And the unit on the ground doesn't even need to clear a landing zone.
Wait, if it doesn't land, how do they get the supplies?
It uses a parachute-enabled precision drop system. It flies over the coordinates, drops a 150-kilo payload, and just circles back home.
It's like Amazon Prime for a war zone.
It is. It can resupply an isolated unit in minutes without ever getting low enough to be an easy target.
I have to play devil's advocate, though. We hear constantly that the Russians are jamming everything, that in some sectors, GPS simply does not work. How does this thing not just get lost and crash?
It's a critical question. And the answer is in its autonomy. Most drones have one central brain. If you jam its link or its GPS, it panics. It crashes.
Okay.
The Ultra uses what they call a masterless autopilot system.
Masterless. That sounds a bit like a hive mind.
That's a perfect way to think about it. The avionics are distributed. There's no single point of failure. If one sensor gets jammed or hit by shrapnel, the others compensate.
So it can take a hit electronically or physically and just keep going.
Exactly. And it doesn't just rely on GPS. It uses visual navigation, comparing the ground below to maps it has on board, plus it has hardened antennas. If the operator link is cut, the drone just doesn't care. It keeps flying the mission.
Wow. So operators can basically just launch it and forget it.
Which is absolutely crucial when you're trying to manage hundreds of these things at once.
So let's zoom out to that big number again, this 100,000 drone pledge from the UK. This isn't just a donation. This feels like a whole industrial strategy.
It's part of a massive £4.5 billion aid package, but you're right, it signals a total change in philosophy for the UK Ministry of Defence. And to see how big a change it is, you have to look at what they're getting rid of.
You're talking about the Watchkeeper drone program?
Yes. The UK is officially decommissioning its entire Watchkeeper fleet. For people who don't know, Watchkeeper was supposed to be the crown jewel. It's a 16-year-old system, cost over £1 billion.
And are just scrapping it. Why?
Because it's obsolete. It's a Ferrari for a war that needs Toyotas. It's so expensive and sophisticated that you're terrified to lose one. And in Ukraine, a big, slow, expensive drone like that would get shot down in minutes.
I saw a report that they specifically refused to send Watchkeepers to Ukraine because they knew they wouldn't survive.
Which is a damning admission. So this pivot to the Ultra is the UK saying, we need a tritable mass. We need systems that are cheap enough to lose, but effective enough to win.
Quantity becomes a quality all its own.
And when you combine that quantity with the 2,000-kilometer range, that's a strategic strike capability.
Because if you launch 100 of these, and 50 are carrying supplies and 50 are carrying explosives,
Russia has to spread its air defenses incredibly thin. Suddenly, an oil refinery 1,500 kilometers from the border is a target. So they have to put a multi-million-dollar air defense system there.
which means that system isn't on the front line protecting their tanks.
It stretches them to the breaking point, and it works in tandem with other things like this Project Nightfall.
Right, I've seen that mentioned. What is that?
That's the other half of the equation. While the drones are the slow, massed threat, the UK is also supplying tactical ballistic missiles.
All 1-2 punch.
It's a layered threat. If you're a Russian air defense commander, you see a swarm of cheap drones coming. Do you fire your expensive missiles? If you do, you run out. And then right behind them come the high-speed ballistic missiles that hit your command post. It's a nightmare for them.
It seems like Ukraine has just become this incredible laboratory for military innovation. Wind Racers isn't just shipping these from a factory in the UK, right?
No, and this is maybe the most important part of the story. Wind Racers has a team on the ground in Ukraine.
So they're getting feedback in real time.
Military procurement feedback used to take years. A committee would write a report, you'd do a redesign. Now it's measured in weeks. They say they have iterations coming through nearly every week. They'll tweak the software overnight to counter a new Russian jammer.
That speed is something Western militaries haven't seen in decades.
It's pure evolutionary pressure. And it's not just a one-way street. Ukraine is now opening weapons export centers in Europe.
I saw that production lines for Ukrainian drones opening in Germany and the UK.
It's incredible. They have this Defense City initiative attracting companies like BAE Systems, but they're also building their own industrial base abroad for resilience.
Which brings us to things like the drone wall and the octopus drone.
Yes, the Octopus. It's an interceptor drone specifically designed to hunt and kill Russian Shahed drones.
The ones that terrorize cities and hit the power grid.
Exactly. A Patriot missile costs millions. An Octopus drone is cheap. It flies up, matches the Shahed speed, and takes it out. You're trading a cheap drone for a cheap drone.
And they're making 1,000 of those a month.
1,000 a month. That's how you build a real wall of drones to protect your cities. You fight mass with mass.
So let's bring this back to the human element. We talk about payloads and cost curves, but this has a real impact.
The most immediate one is saving lives. Every supply run an Ultra makes is a truck driver who didn't have to risk his life on a mined road. That's a person who gets to go home.
And for the Russians, this creates what some are calling a transparent battlefield.
That's a good way to put it. When you combine these drones with Starlink, with AI, with satellite data, it becomes impossible for them to hide.
There's no sanctuary.
None. A logistics hub 500 kilometers behind the lines is just as vulnerable as a tank at the front. If you move, you are seen. If you are seen, you are hit.
And the rest of the world is taking notes.
Oh, absolutely. The U.S. Marines, the British Army, they're all studying this third way of innovation that Ukraine is pioneering, this mix of state, private sector, and volunteer tech.
It really feels like we're past the initial phase of drone warfare. You know, the hobby drone dropping a grenade. This is industrial scale.
It's the maturation of drone warfare, from small tactical tools to strategic heavy-lift autonomous networks. And the Ultra is the poster child for it. Simple, rugged, and mass-produced.
The Jeep of the skies might just be the most important aircraft out there right now, precisely because it isn't a Ferrari.
Sometimes a Jeep is exactly what you need to win a war.
You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry.
And as this technology evolves, you can be sure we'll be here to break it down.
Sign in now. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your trusted source for timely, in-depth military and defense analysis. We'll see you next time. Keep supporting us so we can continue bringing you the latest developments from Ukraine and around the world.